All right, let's talk about one of the toughest, most debated topics in all of education, classroom discipline. Seriously, it's a total minefield of conflicting ideas. And today, we're going to draw a map to help navigate it. So let's just cut to the chase with the one question every single teacher asks themselves. What's the real secret here? Is it all about control? Is it about building connection? Or is there something else going on entirely? Well, we're about to find out. And look, the stakes here are so high. We're not just talking about a little bit of chatter in the back of the room. The range of issues teachers deal with goes from simple inattention all the way to things like aggression and outright defiance. This is the daily reality.
Okay, so how do we even begin to tackle this? Well, our first major school of thought says the key comes from the outside. It's all about systematically shaping a student's actions.
And at the heart of this approach is, of course, B.F. Skinner. His idea was actually pretty simple. He said behavior is basically a science. If a student does something you want them to do, you reinforce it right then and there, not with some big prize at the end of the week, but with a simple, immediate, positive consequence. The idea isn't to bribe them, it's to literally build a good habit, one reinforcement at a time.
But, what if behavior isn't just about what's happening on the outside? Let's flip this around and look at a whole other set of theories that say the real action, the real driver of behavior, comes from inside the student.
And this quote from William Glasser just completely turned Skinner's whole idea on its head. He's basically saying, hey, when a student acts out, it's not just random chaos. It's a choice, and it's their best, maybe clumsy, attempt to get something they deeply, fundamentally need. That misbehavior has a purpose.
And here they are. These are the 5 drives that Glasser says are behind everything we do. Survival, sure, but also belonging, power, fun, and freedom. So a student might be acting up not because they're bad, but because their need for, say, power, to feel important, or their need to belong isn't being met in a positive way.
So, and this is the really important part, it all comes down to how the teacher responds. Glasser lays out these 2 types. You've got the boss teacher, who just barks orders and uses control, which often makes those needs even more frustrated. But then you have the lead teacher, who's more like a coach. They involve students, they focus on quality, and they create a space where those needs for power and freedom are actually met through the learning itself. Taking that idea even further, you have Rudolf Drakers. He was convinced that our number 1 need is to belong. And when students don't feel like they have a place in the group, they start chasing what he called mistaken goals. They'll act out just to get attention, or they'll challenge the teacher to feel powerful. Sometimes they'll even just shut down completely. It's all just a misguided search for belonging.
Which, you guessed it, brings us to our third big idea. What if discipline isn't about controlling students from the outside or trying to decode their inner psychology? What if it's more like being a conductor of an orchestra? It's all about managing the entire classroom environment. So this guy, Jacob Kunin, stumbled onto something pretty mind-blowing. He studied classrooms for years and found that the teachers with the best discipline weren't the strictest ones. Nope, they were the best planners. They had this thing he called with-itness. It's like they had eyes in the back of their heads. They kept lessons flowing smoothly, they kept everyone engaged, and because of that, they nipped most problems in the bud before they even started.
And a huge part of managing that environment comes down to something we all use every second, our words. Haim Janot said that teachers create the climate in the classroom with their language. And just look at the difference here. Good boy is a judgment of the person, but saying something like, I can almost smell the pine trees in your drawing, well, that appreciates the effort. It's a tiny shift, but it changes everything.
And all of this kind of leads us to where a lot of modern thinking is today. This is the idea that discipline isn't something a teacher does to students. Instead, it's something you create with them by building a real team.
Linda Albert gives us this really simple, powerful framework for it with her 3 C's. She says that when students feel capable of doing the work, connected to their teacher and their friends, and feel like they're actually contributing something meaningful to the class, cooperation just happens. Misbehavior is often a sign that one of those C's is missing.
And then Alfie Kohn just takes this idea and runs with it. He argues we need to completely transform the classroom into a learning community. The whole focus shifts from me and my grade to us and what we're discovering together. In a classroom like that, you don't really need to enforce discipline, because that sense of respect and responsibility just grows naturally out of that feeling of being part of an us.
Okay, so community, connection, student choice, it all sounds great, right? But is it the whole story? Well, let's bring in a really powerful counterargument from a modern thinker who says, actually, we've got this all backwards.
So Ronald Morris comes in and just cuts right through all of that. He says most of what we call discipline is just behavior management. You know, putting out fires and trying to keep kids on task. He says real discipline is something else entirely. It's the active, proactive job of teaching students how to behave.
And his plan is super clear. It's a 3-step process. Step 1. Train for compliance. Students have to learn to follow directions from a legitimate authority, period. No arguments. Then, step 2. You explicitly teach them social skills, how to be respectful, how to cooperate, and only after they've learned that do you get to step 3, where they finally earn the right to start making their own choices. For Morris, freedom is earned, not given.
And really, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? While everyone else is focused on meeting student needs to get them to cooperate, Morris is saying that the whole point of discipline is to build character, to teach kids to do the right thing, especially when it's hard and they don't feel like it.
Whoa. Okay. We have gone on a journey, right? From Skinner to Morris and everywhere in between. So after navigating this entire minefield, what's the big takeaway? Let's boil it all down into one simple cheat sheet.
So here it is. You've got Skinner, who says shape behavior from the outside with reinforcement. Then there's Glasser, who tells us to look inside and meet those 5 basic needs. Kunin reminds us that a well-managed lesson is the best discipline. Janot shows us the power of our words. Cohn pushes us toward building a true community. And then you have Morris arguing for direct, authoritative teaching. I mean, look at that. Each one offers a totally different lens to view the exact same problem.
And that really brings us back to the fundamental tension in all of this, and the ultimate question for every educator. Looking at our schools today, what do you think we need more of? Is it structure and control, or is it connection and community? The answer, well, it's probably somewhere in that messy, complicated, wonderful middle. And that's a question we all have to keep asking.